Welcome to EmpowerMigra.
Thank you.
So we're doing another deep dive today.
We are.
And for anyone who might be new here, the core mission of this deep dive is, well, it's pretty straightforward. We take scientific research on migration, integration, the labor market, and we just, translate it.
Right, into clear, everyday language.
Yeah.
No academic jargon.
Exactly. No jargon, because the central question we always want to answer is, what does the research actually say? And how does that contradict the assumptions we hear, every single day?
Yeah, things we just accept as common sense.
Right. And today's source material is, well, I'm really excited to unpack this data with you. It's a landmark discussion paper from 2010.
Yep, from the Institute for the Study of Labor.
The IZA, right? By researchers Kaas and Manger. And the title is Ethnic Discrimination in Germany's Labor Market, a Field Experiment.
It's a classic in the field.
It really is. And to get us started, I want you, the listener, to just imagine a scenario with me for a second.
Okay, let's hear it.
So, you are a hiring manager. You're sitting at your desk, maybe, nursing your second cup of coffee for the morning.
Or third.
Yeah, or third. And you've got two resumes sitting right in front of you. You're trying to fill this highly coveted internship position in your department. And as you read through these two applications, you realize, you've struck gold.
The perfect candidates.
Exactly. They are basically identical. Both are 21 or 22 years old. Both were born and raised in West Germany.
Fully educated there, too.
Right. Both have German citizenship. They list German as their absolute native language.
Not a second language.
No, native. Both skipped military service. They both worked a summer job to get some real-world experience. And they're both in their third semester studying business economics.
And what about their grades?
Oh, the grades are immaculate. They are solidly in the top 25% of their class.
Wow.
Yeah, ranging from good to very good on everything. They're fluent in English. They have basic knowledge of a second foreign language. These are the candidates you pray for.
The absolute ideal.
But here is the reveal. There is exactly one difference between these two applications. Just one.
The name at the top.
The name. One application is from, let's say, Dennis Langer.
Okay.
And the other application is from Fakih Yildiz.
Right.
So I have to ask you, the listener, directly. Should the name at the top of that resume make any difference at all?
I mean, we all want to say no.
Of course we do.
Society tells us it shouldn't matter. It's this deeply held narrative we have about the labor market.
The meritocracy myth.
Exactly.
Yeah.
The assumption is that the labor market is a strict meritocracy.
Right.
If you work hard, if you get good grades, if you have the right skills, your background simply does not matter.
Performance is all that counts.
Right. That's the beautiful idea we operate under.
Okay, let's unpack this. Because if performance is truly the only metric that matters, then Dennis and Fatih should have the exact same success rate.
Theoretically, yes.
But does the data actually support this idea of a totally colorblind, name-blind meritocracy?
Well, that's exactly why Kaas and Manger designed this study.
To test it in the real world.
Right. Away from the theoretical debates. They wanted to know if this meritocratic ideal actually holds up when real managers are looking at real resumes.
And the way they did it is just fascinating. Let's talk about the study itself. Because they didn't just look at any random jobs, right?
No, they were very specific. They targeted student internships in economics and management science in Germany.
Which, why internships? Because sometimes people hear internship and they think, making coffee.
Yeah, but not in this segment. In economics and management, an internship is critical.
It's the foot in the door.
Exactly. It's often a strict prerequisite for high-paying, regular jobs after graduation.
Right. If you don't have that internship on your CV, you're not getting the consulting gig later.
You're not.
Yeah.
So if discrimination happens at this early stage...
It basically derails an entire career before it even starts.
Exactly. And the researchers also focused on this high-skill segment for a very specific reason.
To isolate the variables, right?
Yes. These applicants are second- or third-generation immigrants. They are fully integrated, entirely educated in Germany.
So you completely remove the whole, oh, well, maybe their German isn't good enough excuse.
Right, or the excuse that employers can't evaluate a foreign university degree.
Yeah, because it's a German high school diploma and a German university transcript.
Exactly. They stripped away every single excuse, so the only thing left to measure was the name effect.
I love how clean that is. So let's get into the mechanics of this experiment. How did they actually do it? Because they didn't just ask HR managers, hey, are you racist?
No, because people would lie. or they might not even realize they have a bias.
Hmm.
So they use what's called a correspondence test.
Right, a field experiment.
They basically answered 528 actual job advertisements.
528.
Yeah, on major sites like monster.d, real jobs.
That's a massive amount of work.
It is. And they created two slightly different resumes to send out, Type A and Type B.
Okay, why two? Why not just send the exact same one?
Well, if a company gets two identical resumes, they'll know it's a trick.
Oh, right. They'd spot it immediately.
Yeah, so Type A and Type B had very minor differences, maybe a slightly different layout or a different extracurricular activity.
But observationally equivalent in terms of skill and grades?
Exactly. And here's the genius part. To make sure that Type A wasn't just accidentally a better resume than Type B.
He randomized the names?
Yes. They randomly swapped the German and Turkish names between the two resume types for every single job vacancy.
So for one job, Dennis gets Type A.
And Fatih gets Type B.
And for the next job, Fatih gets Type A and Dennis gets Type B.
Perfectly balanced.
And the level of detail they went into to pull this off, it's wild. Automated serial letters tailored to specific divisions.
Yes, so if it was a marketing job, the cover letter talked about a passion for marketing.
Right, and they even included high school transcripts, university grades.
And the photographs.
Oh, the photographs. We
Yeah.
have to talk about that because in Germany, you usually put a headshot on your resume.
Right, you do. Which introduces a whole new problem.
Yeah.
How do you control for physical attractiveness or visual bias?
Right, because if you use a photo of a blonde, blue-eyed guy for the Turkish name, the employer is going to be really confused.
Exactly. So they found culturally ambiguous photographs. Young men who could believably pass as either a native German or someone with a Turkish background.
That is so smart.
And they kept the photos locked to the resume type, not the name.
Okay, but wait. Let me play devil's advocate for a second.
Go for it.
I looked at the dates for this study. Winter of 2007 to 2008, and then winter of 2008 to 2009.
Financial crisis.
Yeah, the global economy was collapsing. What if the companies just weren't hiring anyone at all? Wouldn't that ruin the data?
It's a great question. The researchers actually looked at that. Despite the looming economic crash, callback rates for these internships remained remarkably stable across both periods.
Really? Even during the crash?
Yeah. Companies might stop hiring expensive senior executives, but they still need cheap, highly skilled interns.
Oh, wow. That makes sense.
So the data is incredibly robust.
All right, so they've sent out these hundreds of flawless applications. Let's get to the results. What did they find?
Well, they found a clear callback gap. Applications with German-sounding names were 14% more likely to receive a positive callback.
14%.
Yes. The raw numbers were a 39.6% callback rate for the German names and a 34.7% callback rate for the Turkish names.
Okay, let's translate those percentages into the real world. Let's do the math of effort for the listener.
Good idea.
So if you want to get 6 interview invitations,
Just 6.
Dennis has to sit down, format his stuff, and write 15 applications.
Okay.
But to get those exact same 6 invitations, Fatih has to write 17 applications.
He literally has to do more work.
For the exact same result, despite having the exact same grades.
Exactly. And it goes beyond just the sheer number of applications. There's also this subtle form of discrimination the researchers found.
The ghosting phenomenon.
Yes.
Yeah.
It wasn't just about total callbacks. It was about basic politeness.
Right.
There were 28 firms that called the German applicant for an interview and completely ignored the Turkish applicant. No rejection letter, nothing.
Just totally ghosted him.
But when you look at the reverse firms that called the Turkish applicant and ignored the German applicant, that only happened 12 times.
Oh. So they were way more likely to just disregard the minority candidate entirely.
A very clear signal. Now, if we connect this to the bigger picture,
Yeah.
a 14% gap is undeniably unfair. But compared to similar correspondence tests in other countries, it's actually much smaller.
Wait, really? It's worse elsewhere.
Oh, absolutely. The text mentions a famous study in the U.S. where there was a 50% gap for African-American names.
It's 50%. That's massive.
And in Greece, there was a 43% gap for Albanian names.
So why is the gap in Germany only 14%? Are German HR managers just, like, less biased?
Unlikely. It comes down to the system. German applications require so much hard evidence up front.
Right, the certificate.
The transcripts, the official stamps. In the U.S., a resume is basically a self-reported list of claims.
You just type it up in Word and say, trust me.
Exactly. And when employers have to rely on trust, That's where implicit bias creeps in.
Oh, that makes so much sense. Because the German system forces you to provide objective proof, it leaves way less room for the hiring manager's bias to operate.
The paperwork acts as a shield against discrimination.
Okay, but even with that shield, there's still a 14% gap.
Right. It helps, but it doesn't solve the problem.
And this brings us to the context, because that 14% wasn't spread evenly across all companies, was it?
Not at all. There was a massive spike depending on the size of the firm.
Yeah, the data showed that for small firms, companies with under 50 employees, the discrimination gap jumped to 24%.
Which is a huge increase.
Why do you think that is? Why are small companies so much worse?
It's about standardization. Small firms usually lack dedicated, standardized HR procedures.
So it's just like the boss reading resumes late at night.
Exactly. And without a rigid rubric to follow, there's a lot more room for individual gut feelings.
And gut feelings are basically just biases.
Pretty much. They rely on heuristics, mental shortcuts, which are often influenced by stereotypes.
Okay, here's where it gets really interesting.
I know where you're going with this.
We have to talk about the difference between Type A and Type B resumes. This completely blew my mind.
It's the most crucial finding of the whole study.
So we said Type A and Type B were slightly different, right?
Yes.
Well, Type B included reference letters from previous employers.
And not just standard letters. They highlighted the applicant's personality.
Right. They specifically mentioned things like agreeableness, commitment, being a team player.
They provided qualitative information about what the person is.
But Type A had absolutely no reference letters, no personality information at all. Just the cold, hard grades and facts.
And when the researchers split the data based on this,
When the personality reference letters were included on the Type B resumes, the discrimination basically vanished.
it dropped to almost zero. 37.4% for the German name, 36.9% for the Turkish name.
A statistical tie.
Yes. But when the reference letters were missing on the Type A resumes,
The gap exploded, 41.8% for the German name and only 32.5% for the Turkish name.
which perfectly illustrates the theory of statistical discrimination.
Okay, let's break that down for the listener. What is statistical discrimination?
Basically, when employers don't have enough information about an individual, like their personality or work ethic, they have an information vacuum.
Right. They know the grades, but they don't know the person.
Exactly. And human brains hate a vacuum.
Mm.
So, to fill in the blanks, they subconsciously rely on statistical stereotypes associated with the applicant's demographic group.
It's like judging a book by its cover, but only when the summary on the back is missing.
That's a great way to put it.
Let me try an analogy. It feels like how car insurance works.
How so?
Like, if an insurance company sees an application for a 21-year-old male driver, they don't know if he's a safe driver individually, so they just rely on the statistic that young guys crash more, and they charge him a massive premium.
That is exactly the same mechanism. The employer is charging the minority applicant a risk premium based on a stereotype simply because they lack individual data.
But the second you provide that individual data, the summary on the back of the book, the reference letter, the cover, stops mattering.
The vacuum is filled. The stereotype is no longer needed.
Wow. That is just, it's a huge realization.
It is. It shows that information is the antidote to this specific type of bias.
But let's take a step back from the numbers for a second and just reflect on the human cost of this.
Yeah.
Because if two identical applications yield such completely different results purely based on a name missing some personality context.
Think about how many brilliant talents are being filtered out before they even get to shake a hand.
Right. It's exhausting. And I want to ask the listener to just think about their own workplace for a minute.
Think about your hiring practices.
How many companies pride themselves on having these streamlined, fast applications? Don't send a cover letter. Don't send references. Just give us your CV.
It's a huge trend in HR right now.
Yeah, they think they're removing hurdles and being more objective.
But according to this data, by not asking for references up front, they are accidentally creating that exact information void.
They're accidentally triggering statistical discrimination against minority candidates.
Exactly. By trying to be efficient, they might be hurting the very people they want to give a fair shot.
That is wild.
Now, statistical discrimination is one theory, but the study also hints at another one.
Taste-based discrimination, right. Gary Decker's theory.
Yes, this isn't about information voids. This is about active preference.
Like, I just don't want to hire this kind of person.
Right. But it's not always the manager's personal hatred. Often, it's proxy discrimination.
What does that mean?
It means the manager might not be biased, but they fear that their coworkers or their clients will be.
Oh, so they're like, I like Fatih, but I don't know if the old guys in the engineering department will respect him.
Exactly. So to avoid potential friction, they just hired Dennis.
And the data actually backed this up, didn't it, with the HR departments?
It did. The researchers found that the bias was significantly stronger when the internship was located within a human resources department.
Which is so ironic. The department in charge of fairness is the most biased.
But if you view it through the lens of taste-based proxy discrimination, it makes sense. HR is a highly interpersonal role. You have to interact with everyone in the company.
So the HR director is hyper aware of potential cultural friction across the whole firm.
Exactly. They preemptively filter out the minority candidate to manage the presumed biases of the rest of the company.
Man, that is dark. The gatekeepers are filtering you out because they're anticipating someone else's racism.
The data doesn't fully confirm this is the only cause, but it strongly raises the question.
So, bringing this full circle, we started by talking about the meritocracy myth.
The idea that performance is all that counts.
Is the labor market fair?
The empirical data says no.
It really does. Even with perfect grades, perfect German, and completely identical qualifications, the playing field is tilted.
It is.
But having this data is so valuable. We don't have to rely on feelings or, political shouting matches to talk about discrimination.
Exactly. We have field-tested evidence.
We know exactly where the gaps in fairness exist.
And more importantly, we know how things like providing more upfront information can actually help close those gaps.
Right. It gives us a tool to actually fix the system instead of just complaining about it.
That's the real power of this kind of research.
Before we wrap up, there is one final, pretty unsettling thought directly from the conclusion of Kaas and Manger's paper that I want to leave you with.
Ah, yes. The grades caveat.
Right. Because remember, this entire experiment was conducted using resumes that were in the top 25% of their class.
These were stellar students, the absolute best of the best.
The researchers point out they speculate. What if these applicants had just had average or mediocre grades?
It changes the whole dynamic.
Because for a German candidate, average is just average. You're a normal applicant.
But for minority candidate,
Average grades might actually trigger and confirm those negative stereotypes we were talking about.
without those stellar grades to act as a shield, the hiring manager might look at the minority name, see average grades, and think, yep, exactly as I assumed.
Which means the discrimination gap for the average worker.
Could be drastically worse than the 14% we discussed today.
Yeah. 14% was the baseline for perfection. What happens to the guy who's just normal?
It's a sobering thought.
It really is. Something for you to ponder the next time you look at a stack of resumes on your desk. Well, this has been another deep dive for EmpowerMigra. EmpowerMigra understanding begins with listening.